Coming over to live stream. There we go. No? Are we? Is this ready? Where's it at? That's not it. There it is. I'm trying to get this pulled up here. No, I don't know what they're doing. It's been down for like 2 days or 2 weeks. Called them, but we're only here once. Well, 2 days a week, and we're doing church, and so like 120, something like that. We do. Oh, that it's the streaming. It's the it wouldn't support uh the stream out. I might know a thing or two. We're in Exodus chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2. Good morning to all those that are tuning in online. Let's see if I. This is like super tiny on my screen here. Oh, wait. There's a way. View settings. There it is. Yeah. This the Bible study author has a pretty good quote here. It's from a philosopher, Rene Descartes. Descartes. It's French, and I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. So, was excited to discover the answer to the question, "How do I know that I exist? That I am not just an illusion?" The answer was, "I think, therefore I am." Few of us, however, are satisfied with such self knowledge. All of us, from childhood into adulthood, have a longing of others acknowledge and value our. I don't know when this Bible study was produced, but the rise and popularity of social media, that we want to be heard, we want to be seen, we want to be acknowledged. People want to they strive for those likes and that audience to be able to talk to and all that. So we want to matter to someone besides ourselves. The Bible repeatedly assures us that our way is never hidden from the Lord. In Genesis, the Egyptian slave Hagar named God the one who sees me. This encouraging truth is underlined in the opening chapters of Exodus. Moses learned firsthand that God sees his children and hears their cries. And we see in here, and it also has a pretty cool little deal, but it talks about the brevity, the how things come and go. It says expected parents often agonize about naming their newborn. There was one of my relatives was having a baby in the next couple weeks, and they've been posting online and everything, and people want to know their name. People want to know the baby's name, and yeah, and the thing about it's different in different cultures, but the what the Bible study author wants us to focus on is how names change over time. But in our culture, right, I was introduced to different cultures and whatnot. And I didn't name my kids until they were actually born, um, and how they get their names and all that is a unique way as well. But here it talks about it says many consult lists to help them come up with the right name. Is there a right name? I mean, the name that you come up with is going to be their name forever, and so that probably is the right name. But you're seeking when you're looking, right? You're trying to decide, does this name fit? Does this name fit? Well, you don't even know who it is. It's always funny. You don't even know what they're gonna do and how they're gonna conduct themselves. Um, I always like when people name their kids after people before them, right? Adam's named after his what great grandfather. Um, uh, Junior's named after his dad, right? And it goes on like that. And my name, I, there's nobody in my family that was named Arthur, both sides. I was named after somebody that helped my parents get over their addictions and help them on their new path in life. My younger brother, he was named after our great grandpa, and so naming after people has always been um, a cool thing, I think. It says names rise and fall in popularity. The 10 most popular baby names in the 1980s were Jessica, Jennifer, Amanda, Ashley, Sarah, Michael, Christopher, Matthew, Joshua, and David. And that's kind of cool to see those last couple names there. But the most popular names in the 2010s were Emma, Olivia, Sophia, Isabella, Ava, Noah, Liam, Jacob, William, and Mason. So not one name appears in both lists separated by just 30 years. And again, you might be able to find some similarity, but this is just one item of research that this Bible study author did. 20 names, 20 different names, not one alike over, 30 years. And it might even be like that today. We might see more names. I don't know if you're paying attention to names, but there are names out there literally people are just making up, just making sounds, which that's all a name is just the guttural sound or whatever you want to say. However, whatever sound you want to say it is that we say to get somebody's attention, right? It's just that's all it is. But it means something when there's names passed down, especially in our cultures. Um, there might be a significance to that. And then we could go even further about Indian names and titles and all that we've handed down as well. So God's plan of redemption began with Abraham. God brought him and his family from Ur to be landless aliens in Canaan. But the Lord also made a covenant to bless him. The Lord would make Abraham's offspring a nation of countless people who would bless the entire world. God would also give them a vast land that included Canaan. First, though, God would lead Abraham's descendants to Egypt, where they would be oppressed for 400 years. But God would judge Egypt and bring Abraham's descendants out of their slavery. Meanwhile, the Canaanites would be sinking to the level of iniquity that required divine judgment. And the rest of Genesis follows Abraham's family to the time of his grandson Jacob, Israel, and his family. Jacob's son Joseph become the means by which the family ended up in Egypt. Jacob and Joseph both died holding to God's promises in faith, trusting that his promise to give them the land of Canaan would be fulfilled one day. And then Exodus begins by noting that only 70 descendants of Jacob, not counting Joseph, had migrated to Egypt, perhaps during the Egyptian Middle Kingdom in the 12th dynasty. And it goes on and explains a little bit more history. So although Joseph achieved great power and prestige in Egypt, the Pharaoh who had extended generosity to his family had died. A new leader who didn't know Joseph came to power and enslaved the Israelites. He feared the growing number of Hebrews posed a threat to Egypt. And Moses never named the Pharaoh, so scholars talking about more history there. Over time, the Egyptians made life miserable for God's people, yet because of the Lord's oversight and care, their afflictions only served to strengthen them. And Pharaoh's attempts to control the Israelite population ironically helped Moses for his divinely given role as rescuer of God's people. And as we read here, it says, identify how God was involved in the lives of his people. What does this teach us about his character and ability? And it's going to have us read a little bit here. Exodus 2:23. Where's it at? So after a long time, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned because of their difficult labor, and they cried out, and their cry for help ascended to God because of the difficult labor. So God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God saw the Israelites, and he took notice. And then we see here where Abraham or Moses is going to have his encounter right here. But in verse 24 there, it says, God remembered. God's knowledge is limitless. So the expression God remembered used first of Noah is an idiom meaning that he acted in accordance with his promises. God was about to fulfill his commitment to bring Abraham's descendants out of their oppressive stay in Egypt and give them the land of Canaan. Although God is often accused of forgetting his children, we see that time and time again throughout the scriptures, he never does. Instead, his response is based on his schedule, not ours. And that's a very, very good reminder right there that what we live by, right? He's ordained, he's set out, he's planned. We haven't planned any of this. And if we take a look at our lives and where we're at, right, we might be able to see sometimes where we wanted things to happen a little bit quicker, but because we were patient and we were faithful, we seen how God worked and was able to actually do better than we ever could. And then remembering his covenant, right? A covenant is a mutual agreement. This is the study author is defining it, right? Sealed by an oath, which formalizes a relationship. Okay. When we go and we enter into a contract, right, we establish a relationship, and that's the basis for a legal relationship in which we agree if we fail in that, we have to abide by the terms of what's in that agreement. And it usually means we'll take it to court and resolve it, or there might be an arbitration clause or whatever. And these exist in all kinds of things that we probably do in everyday life that we don't even really pay attention to. There's an agreement when you buy a cell phone and you sign up for a contract and all that. There's even kind of an agreement when you just go and buy a stick of candy or a piece of gum or any of that type of stuff, right? That receipt shows that you've paid for that, and that if there's any kind of disclaimers on that, then you're going to take it that route, right? And we see where this is maybe played out in the media, right? We've had some food recalls recently that are pretty big, and because people get sick and all that. Well, that's what you are doing, right? You're establishing a relationship, and if there's anything wrong with that relationship, then you have to take it to the avenues that are available for you. Well, this is the same way with our relationship with God. God's biblical covenants were always initiated by him with irrevocable divine promises, right? So he was able to show us a way, and because he wanted us to be able to take part in that, he's actually committed himself and us to being able to see what he has in store for it. There is a end result. Human stipulations of faith also were tied to the divine blessings, but God determined the consequences of rebellion. See, there are consequences. There are alternatives if we don't fulfill what we're responsible for. Even when his people did fall short, God's promises always remain in effect. In God's covenant with Abraham, he promised to use Abraham and his descendants to bless the world and to make them a nation too populous to count. They also would possess Canaan forever. He would be their God and would remain with them, giving them prosperity and protection. But whether each generation received these blessings depended on their faith relationship with Him. Right? Um, I wouldn't say it's an exchange, but it's a fulfillment of what not only what we promised to do, but what God has also promised to do. God knew, and moving on right here, he's talking about what he was responsible for. If we go back to is it verse 25? Yeah. God saw the Israelites and he took notice. The object of the verb is not given in Hebrew. Rather, it may be understood that the time of fulfillment had come. The verb used here can have many connotations, but the context indicates that God was aware of his people's suffering and was preparing to act on their behalf. Again, what we're seeing here, the call, the agony, right? The I wouldn't say terrible circumstances, but they weren't great. And remember, it's a relationship. It's a there's terms, right? And because they were hurting, because they were being afflicted, right, beyond what they were responsible for, they didn't get here because they wanted to be there. There are times when his people, much like us, even our nation today, right? We've gotten astray. We've gotten as a nation, we're probably on the wrong side more than the right side of being able to fulfill those commitments. But here in this time, his people, they are being afflicted and they're being punished, right? And they're crying out to God to be able to fulfill that commitment, to restore what he had ordained, what his plan was, right? It was going off track. It wasn't their fault, and they were asking. Well, they were crying for help, and so because he promised that he would take care of them, he would protect them, right? That's what the scriptures are saying, that he's about to take action. And then we see here where moving on into what Moses is getting ready to experience. It glosses, skips over an important part here, but we'll read it. It says, "Meanwhile, Moses was shepherding the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire within a bush. As Moses looked, he saw that the bush was on fire, but was not consumed. So Moses thought, I must go over and look at this remarkable sight. Why isn't the bush burning up? When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. And obviously, being starry, he said, Here I am. He answers, Do not come closer, he said. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he continued, I am God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Obviously, in their culture, right, they knew that they couldn't do certain things because it was too much to ask of them, too much to ask of their bodies, of their minds, right? Much the same way in our native cultures, we have things that we know that we probably shouldn't touch, we shouldn't tempt, right? And that's what's going on here. Because he recognized his teachings, he was able to not only respond to him, but also be humble. He knew what was happening. Yeah, he was curious and was quite unsure when he went over there, but he knew instantly. He recognized God's voice, and that's something that we need to be able to take note of during this time. Is we need to be able to recognize when God is talking to us, when He's speaking, when He's engaged with us, or when He's allowing us to be able to do something for Him. It says, then the Lord said, and getting back into the study and the author here, He says, Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people in Egypt, and I've heard them crying out because of their oppressors, and I know about their sufferings. I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and to bring them from the land to a good from that land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the territory of the Canaanites, the Hittites, Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The Israelites' cry for help has come to me, and I have also seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. Um, and then he goes and he's talking specifically to Moses in this part. It says, Therefore, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh so that you may lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And then we see the struggle, right? Which we all encounter when God wants us to do something. When we feel it on our heart to be able to go and do what He's called us to do, there's always there's an inner battle, and then there's an external battle, right? The inner battle is the representation of Moses. I wouldn't say arguing, but he's kind of disagreeing with what God has laid out for him, even though he just explained it to him what he's about to do. What he's about to do. He's not saying that Moses is going to do this. He's saying that what he's about to do, but he's gonna use Moses to accomplish this. Much like if we was to go to war, right? The United States is going to win, but we have to use a military to be able to do that. Same way with resources today. If the church wanted to, very good example over here, this land that we're about to undertake, this transaction we're about to undertake, we're going to do it, but we have to be able to have the resources to be able to do it and be able to use that, right? And that's the same way. It's God's plan. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We are following in his guidance to be able to expand his reach, right? But in that same way, we also need resources to be able to do that, and we're going to be able to ask for those things, request for those things, and work for those things to be able to further his kingdom. It doesn't happen. There are ways. There are times when God can just magically. What we say magically, I guess. What would be the word? Miraculously, right? There are miracles in certain circumstances, but in this time, when he's using people, he's gonna use our methods to be able to get things accomplished, right? And what he was asking Moses was, "Go speak for my people." He wasn't gonna, he does because Pharaoh ignores what he's called him to do. There are miracles that he performs, but in our instance, right, he's using us as a way to be able to give us experience, right, give us knowledge, give us wisdom, but also to show us, right, to be able to give us a testimony, to be able to share with people, and that's powerful. That's what we've been called to do. That's what the Great Commission says, is to go to all people, to show them, to teach them, to help them, and then for them to go out on their own by equipping them. Then the reach becomes even further. It starts allowing everybody to be able to see and hear about not only God but Jesus and what He did for us. And so, yeah, that's a really good. So a vessel. I think Brother Junior said it once. He was talking about um, a carriage or something, but a vessel doesn't necessarily mean we always um, associate it with water, right? A boat as a vessel, but it's anything that carries, anything that takes that. And what we carry is that message. I always like that little part. It's kind of gruesome in Saving Private Ryan when one of the guys is shot down, and the crew they're shot down, not like a plane, but when one of the soldiers is shot, and the crew is watching him, wanting to rescue him, but they say, what's going on and all this, and they keep shooting him. Well, the I think it's the officer or the higher up soldier. He says, as long as he's carrying the message, he's a threat. And that's the same way with us, and as God's soldiers. As long as we're carrying that message, we're doing our job. We're a vessel. We're trying to get His gospel from point A to point B. That point A might be here in church. The point B might be our families, our community members, anywhere out there. As long as we're carrying that message, we're doing His will. We're speaking His truth. And the same way right here, that's what He was asking Moses to do. That's what He was ordaining him to do, was to carry out His message, because what was going to be accomplished was going to be accomplished. Now, Pharaoh had the opportunity to go along with the plan, and we see where what stance he took. God made it so with the plan anyways. Again, we get caught up in being in place, and He had to show them. He had to be able to prove that. And so and that's pretty much what the Bible study author wants us to focus on, is that in this first part, this first lesson, we're seeing where that relationship was established, and we can call out on that relationship. We can recognize when He has planned out something, and because He's done that, right? If we get into not talking about so much our mistakes and what we get into, but if we get into kind of like what the Israelites were facing there, slavery, oppression, all that type of stuff, we get out there and we call on Him, He's gonna fulfill His side and take care of us. What He's planned, right? Way, He's gonna be able to restore that. It just might take a little bit more effort on us to be able to do what we're supposed to be doing correctly, right? And get back in line of what it means to be a follower of God. And so, excited. We're not only going to be looking at Exodus this quarter, but I think there was, what I've seen, there was 2 books here. Exodus and Leviticus. So the study of the law. Yeah. And so we are going to go ahead and get ready for our main worship service. And so, any questions, comments? Leviticus ought to be pretty good to me. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and pray and get started for church. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to You again just thanking You for everything that You've provided, thanking You for being able to spend time with our church family, being able to share in a meal. We just ask that You bless the rest of this day. We ask that You bless service and the reading of Your word. We ask this all in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.